You don't need to know all the things. And that's actually not even what entrepreneurship is. It's just a bumbling journey of learning and giving yourself permission to learn the lessons all along the way. Like once you can just accept that you are building this plane as you are flying it, you're going to be fine.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
We have Jules Webber on the show today. You're not going to believe this, but within 1 year, Jules had a baby, moved cities, got divorced, started a company, and that company generated 6 figures. Jules had never been the financial provider in her household, and with these huge shifts, everything looked different. She set a goal of just making enough money to pay the bills for 1 month. She blew her goal out of the water and really surprised herself. So how did she do this? And what does Jules do, right? She is a life coach, and she has used social media to generate revenue. In this episode, we talk through exactly how she's doing that step by step. We talk about the challenges that she's faced, as well as what she's done to overcome them, and some of the specific methods and things she did to really own her voice online in order to make connections that convert. Jules is one of my Star Renegade students, and I just know that her story has so much value in it, from not only being inspiring and motivating, but also the literal things, the very first step she took in a situation that she never imagined she'd be in. So enjoy. Being able to design my own day and do it in the most efficient way is a non-negotiable for me. I'm a bit of a time management nerd, so when I find something that allows me to be more efficient and effective to get the most out of my day, I want to share it with everyone. So here's the scoop. I have a new tool in my productivity tool belt, and it's called monday.com. My team and I have never felt more organized professionally and personally. And my to-do list is no longer the boss of me. I feel more in control because every project, initiative, date, and task is captured and organized in one place. And my team is in the loop and involved every step of the way. We are in lockstep. Monday.com is like having a brand new operating system. Everything has its own home, deadline. You can see the team members associated with the tasks, and it's color coordinated, so you can easily navigate your own task list. We all have multifaceted jobs, businesses, and lives. With Monday, you're able to keep all of these components organized in their own compartments, but you're also one click away from seeing the big picture and how they all integrate together. Creating systems and procedures within your day and business saves a lot of time. For example, my team and I have a dedicated Monday.com board for this very podcast. Did you know that there are 28 steps involved in getting one podcast ready for air? It's the same exact process every single time. And it's a system that we have put into place. So we know the various key steps are assigned to certain people, and we've mapped out the entire process from start to finish within this one board. This allows us to be streamlined. It cuts back on the amount of emails exchanged as well as the amount of meetings needed. One feature I love is that my social media content calendar is built inside of Monday.com. I finally have one that I actually use, I like, and it's embedded into my overall calendar as well. Another feature we use every single day is the Google Doc integration. You know I love a good spreadsheet. I can pull them into Monday.com and edit them right there versus having 97 tabs open on my computer, which is extremely distracting and inefficient. If how we spend our days is how we spend our lives, then I can't think of anything more important than using the time in our days wisely. Head to hey.monday.com/Amy Jo Martin to start your free trial today. That's hey.monday.com/Amy Jo Martin.
Jules, welcome to the Why Not Now show. I'm so excited to have you. Let's hop in. We'll start where we always do, and there's so much more to cover. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself, why not now?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I remember this like it was yesterday because it was such a clarifying moment. But at the time, I was, a women's life coach based primarily in relationship and intimacy work. And I did that kind of as just something that I really enjoyed and loved, but almost as like a hobby or a little bit of a side hustle maybe. And at the same time, I had just finalized my divorce and I was sitting on the couch and I had a newborn at the time. I think she was 9 months old, maybe. I also had a 3-year-old. I had just moved cities, so I didn't know a ton of people. And I was faced with this choice of, I had been a stay-at-home mom for a little while, hadn't worked in a little bit, but I'd been a part of some different entrepreneurial related projects along the way. And so I was like, go back to any of those things. Do I want to learn a new skill, or do I want to just put all of my eggs into the coaching basket? I knew that was the thing that I loved more than anything. It was the thing that brought me to life, that felt so inspiring. I knew I would watch so many women's lives change if I did it. I knew my life would change. It also felt like the most audacious thing I could possibly do. It was unreasonable and nonsensical on almost every level. Like it's there was that side of my brain that was like, you're going to move cities, have your second baby, get divorced, and start a business all in the same year. Like, really? It was like very easy to argue with. And at the same time, when you're at those moments where life, I had gotten divorced, so much about what I thought my future was going to look like was just empty canvas. And I had a chance to fill that with the thing that I really loved, even if my whole, all of the things in my life fell apart while I tried. And I just felt like, financially, I was very stressed at the time. So it wasn't like I had all this cushioning and could just go, oh, well, I'll try it. But I also knew, I think intuitively, there was a part of me that was kind of just growing up a little bit that needed like a bit of a fire under my ass. And that really helped me commit, to be honest. I knew that I dreaded the idea of trying to figure out something else to do that felt more, quote, reliable. And I knew that the dread of not doing this thing that I loved felt like it would be so much bigger if I didn't choose that. And it brings tears to my eyes thinking about it, because at the time, that was the bravest, most true for me choice that I could have made. And I had every reason not to choose it. And I think that's how those why not now moments feel. You legit have every reason in the world not to do it. And nobody would really disagree with you. They would say, yeah, I totally understand why you wouldn't want to do that. Like, it's really not a good time. And you're really the only one that can hold that candle for yourself. And that has to be enough. And I just decided in that moment that it was going to be.
Oh,
And I went for it.
you absolutely did. And I remember us talking about this, and I could just picture you sitting on the couch, and you said, it was all or nothing. It was going to be an all or nothing moment. And, suddenly your life just didn't look the same. And you wanted to provide for yourself and your daughters. And you had various options, and you chose the one most true to you, but you also chose the one that was likely the scariest, riskiest, felt the riskiest, felt, like nobody would understand why you were doing this, why you wouldn't take the different route. So you put all your eggs into this basket, you lit a fire under your ass. It was kind of already lit, right? Like you knew you needed to do something. What was that very first goal? Like what did you map out?
Well, my financial situation changed overnight with the divorce. So I didn't have any income except for like some child support, which, added up to like a small percentage of what we needed to spend every month, but was by no means like enough or like I had to do something right. So at first, my goal was just to pay the bills every month, right? And so at the time that felt like, to go from, because my relationship with money has changed so much. I, got married when I was 22, and for most of my 20s, saw my husband as like the main financial provider. So even when I did make money, it kind of went through him. He invested things. I just like spent money on the credit card, and I never had my own specific relationship with money myself. And so even just learning to self as capable of making however much money I want just felt equally audacious as putting all my eggs in this career basket right off the bat. And so at first the goal was just to do what I have to. That was really it. It was like, just pay the bills next month.
Let's check these boxes, the bare minimum.
Yeah. Just like, buy groceries. And also like a huge important part of that for me as well was I knew even then, just looking at the nature of my life, I suddenly had like 80% custody of these two babies, and they have a very involved dad, but just you have to have them a lot more when they're that small as their mom. And so I just knew that if I didn't take really good care of myself, I would just be buried in stress. And so part of that, I think so much of the instinct a lot of us have when things feel financially tight or when we've got a business on the line and we're really trying to grow it, we neglect ourselves and our own self-care so much. And so I really had to bake my self-care into my life from the beginning, and choose to like keep the gym membership and go see my friends and make fun plans and make sure that I was still living a well-rounded life, even though I had this goal that would like had to happen and it felt kind of stressful. That was a choice that I made as an entrepreneur from the beginning, that if I die, so will all of this. And that's really not okay because I have kids, And so that was kind of lumped in there too. So it was like pay the bills, but also not just the bare minimum. Like I need a little bit extra because my self-care isn't extra. It's absolutely necessary. It's not an indulgence.
My self-care is not an extra. I love that. That's like write that one down. It's so true. It's strategic. Like that's business strategy too. That's not just like a nice to have. That's really smart. So this entrepreneurial path, it's new. Your world has shifted upside down, and this is a path you had never been on before. And so your sense of stability was different. You move forward, you set a goal, and it's funny how you had this weight on your shoulders, right? And you set this goal, and it was a financial one to begin with, right? Like, because you needed to generate revenue. And I know we had met prior to this, but we hadn't started working together yet. And I've seen you along this route and witnessed your journey from from like exchanging voice notes, and we're like in your tears at at that moment, all the way to, hey, I just made 6 figures. So fill us in on what happened step by step, because you're sitting on the couch, you set a goal. Then what? I mean, you started up leveling your self-worth too, right? Like your revenue focus goals were not out of, they were still in alignment with what you were doing. I think that's the key.
For sure. Yeah. So my goal that first month was just pay the bills. And I actually ended up making twice the amount that I was aiming for in the first month. And then
And how did you do that?
I actually, you know what? I didn't even realize I had done it at the time. It wasn't until I looked back that I saw how much money I was really making. I just knew at the time, okay, my bank account's not running out of money. There's something in there. But it was when I was getting a new house in Austin, and they wanted to see my income history, and you have to make like a certain amount times what you're paying and all of this. And so I had to sort of go through everything financially in a way that I really hadn't yet after my first 6 months or so of doing this. And I looked back, and every single month I had consistently taken an income at twice the level that I had originally, quote, needed, and I was making more than enough money to afford this house that was a dream house that I wasn't even sure, I just was kind of following like my own instinct to manifest. Like I just saw this house and I was so wildly in love with it. I couldn't even explain. Like I just bonded with it right away. And so I just kind of told myself, I'll just look into it. We'll see. As long as there's alignment, I'll just keep going down that path. And the alignment showed up in all of my financials. I was
you reverse engineered your alignment, your financial success. You backed into it.
Totally.
Oh my gosh. And I remember you sharing, I'd love to kind of get into almost the tactics of what you did, because you had been showing up on social prior, right? So I think you refer to it as like Insta blogging as a creative outlet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden shit gets real and you're like, this has been fun and that's great as a hobby.
So let's like monetize this thing. But yes, totally.
That was one thing. I'm going to do another. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what shifted? Because I know you start sharing more and it seems like people start connecting with your story in ways you didn't even realize. But the first kind of big set of transactions to generate that revenue, how did that happen?
So yeah, I had been Instablog. I had this like writing hobby that I just enjoyed, and a bit of a proclivity for just sharing about my own life in a vulnerable seeming kind of way. I didn't realize that you're so good about teaching, Amy Jo, is that you don't create your brand, you are your brand, or what's the phrase?
Yes, you don't brand yourself, you are yourself.
Yes, you don't brand yourself, you are yourself. And that's your brand. And so what I didn't realize that I had a brand. Just this thing I had been just doing creatively. I really didn't have a very big audience at the time. I think I maybe had like 1/8 of what I have now. It wasn't huge, but probably like more than 50% of those people were like readers, people that came in because someone shared something. And I just remember thinking at the time, like, I wonder if these people could see me as somebody that could like lead them personally through what they're going through and pay me for it. And I think so many of us have this complicated relationship with selling on social media. I certainly did. I still do at times. You hear people say like how sponsorships and ads annoy them without realizing how much work that genuinely goes into creating all this free content. And so the fact that I felt guilty about wanting to sell something to people that were consuming everything that I was doing for free was like something I really needed to deal with and to work on just in my self-worth. Because in a sense, I carried this belief that if I couldn't like make a living from this thing that came naturally to me, that was a natural creative outlet for expression, then I was telling myself something about my own worth that really needed to shift. And I had been hesitant to like market myself as a coach in my services and all of these things because I felt like, oh, does that make you disingenuous? And I had someone wonderful tell me, you know, she was like, if you're worried about coming across that way, then you're not one of those people who's going to come across that way.
You wouldn't be asking yourself that question.
Exactly.
Because most people don't ask themselves that question. Right.
And so I just threw a pitch out there on my stories out of
Your Instagram stories.
Yeah. And I just was like, you know what? My genuine desire to help people can be co-mingled with a desire to make very good money from that help. Those things very appropriately go hand in freaking hand. Like they don't have to be separate. And that's just like even just a patriarchal notion of femininity that I think really needs to get broken down here is this shame that we have around money, around talking about money, around spending money on ourselves, valuing ourselves first so that we can just be taken care of. I had to really work with some of that on myself. And I remember this was such an expansive moment for me when I did the Renegade Brand Bootcamp. I share this moment all the time because I think we all need moments like this, but I really did not know at the time how to think like an entrepreneur in an expansive way. And that group and being connected with these women, with you, oh my God, really expanded my idea of what I needed to believe was possible for me. And so I remember we were all at Susie Batista's house for our little weekend together. What a magical weekend. I just want to recreate that weekend all the time. And we were kind of going around the circle, but he was telling, their financial goals, their sales goals, whatever it was, all these women. I mean, I had never been in a group where women just talk openly about the money they want to make, about the change they want to see, about the brand they want to build, about all of that. And one of them, Ksenia, she said, I want to book $50,000 of speaking engagements, like in the next, 3 months. I was like, holy shit. Can I say that? Is it okay to cuss?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. And what's so cool to me is that you knew you needed to be in that group and you probably didn't even know exactly what you were getting. You knew what you're getting into technically, but not in terms of you were attracted to the program because you were ready to level up. And look at, it's been a year and a half. So everybody's going around sharing their financial goals, and little did you know what you were about to do.
I know. And to get so specific and so tangible, I mean, it was just so expansive for me. Like, I think that's why we have to talk about this, because we need people and stories and courses, whatever it is, to come and expand our ideas of what's doable. I just don't think something at the time like that would have.
Yes. Yeah. No, I hear you. And it's seeing is believing, right? So unless we actually can be around and surround ourselves with those examples, it's really hard to grasp. I think it just feels very much like you're on an island and this is an idea in your head. Like you thought things were so audacious, these goals. And I remember you had your first 5-figure month, and then all of a sudden you're texting me about making 6 figures, and it's like, and it was just
I was bawling. I know. Oh
I know, which was it makes me so happy because you've done this and you've stayed in alignment. And so you're making an impact. And yes, you're making money too. I mean, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. That's
well, and not only is there nothing wrong with it, there's no possible way I would be doing this or having an impact if I wasn't making money. Like those two things are inextricably tied. Like if I didn't think and know for certain that I could make money from this and really bank on that, like I would be doing something none of the dozens of women that I've worked with the last year that have saved their marriages, their own support, their own boundaries, that have rescued themselves, that have completely changed their lives. Like none of it would have, not only that, but I would be doing something totally that's not as in alignment for me.
Yeah.
And that would be hard just on my soul and my body and my self-worth.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, everyone, I've got an announcement. As of today, we are officially enrolling for the 2021 Renegade Accelerator Program, formerly called the Renegade Brand Bootcamp. Okay, so who is this program for? What is it? The Renegade Accelerator is for driven female leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs ready to massively increase their impact and income. The program is for like-minded, like-hearted women all over the globe. The experience is intimate, live, real-time, virtual, and it's led by me. Our curriculum is equal parts education, practical education, collaboration, and accountability. In the accelerator, you'll learn directly from me, and I share everything I've learned over the past 20 years in business. We meet in real time to learn, discuss, and grow together. This is high touch. I'll teach you a variety of things, from personal branding to the business side of public speaking, podcasting, publishing, marketing partnerships, how to productize your intellectual property, and we even talk about investing. I teach you all about the different types of investing in order to build your personal wealth. You will also learn the renegade mentality, which is a key ingredient in your success to generate real results. This program is the career love of my life because I get to curate a mosaic of driven, like-minded, like-hearted women who come together to lift each other and themselves up to the next level. After the Renegade Accelerator, you become a member of my top-level alumni community. This group of unmatched women who are making a positive impact is personally curated by me. The relationship building and networking opportunities are endless, and this collective of real, valuable connections will be something that you have forever. If you're at the point where you are ready to take action and accelerate, head to renegadeaccelerator.com. You can sign up for more information where I will guide you in determining if the program and the timing is right for you. If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Why not now? Head to renegadeaccelerator.com.
It's so fascinating because I see sometimes this arc and this, you were humanizing yourself before you realized it, but then the whole concept of, I could actually monetize my value here. Like there's value exchange. It's not just about always giving away everything for free. Of course, you have to establish a lot of value that you offer. And then eventually there's the two-way street in that value exchange, especially with social. But I think what I've seen happen so many times, and I know you can speak to this, Jules, is, okay, you're off to the races. You're also working your butt off too, by the way. So this isn't like you're just sitting back and putting a couple things on social and headed to the bank every day, right? You're working and you're doing more one-on-one coaching. You're increasing your prices. Then all of a sudden it's like, I don't necessarily want to trade time for dollars as much anymore. You start group programming. That starts building more. And you're on this momentum is taking off. You're still a mom of two. You're now in a pandemic. You still have, 24 hours in a day. And things continue to get bigger and bigger. And I'd love to kind of fast forward and have you share some of the things you've learned about how you're making some adjustments. I mean, you could call it pivot, but really it's just called business growth. I mean, you're going through, this is the entrepreneurial path because we have to prove to ourselves and that value and believe in ourselves enough for that self-worth to turn into the dollars, not just followers, dollars. And then we realize, I think there's some tweaks I can make to do this more efficiently. It wasn't like you just tried to scale yourself right out of the gate. First, you needed a proof of concept, right? And you proved to yourself you could do it. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, like this corner you're turning that sometimes feels a little Bambi legs-ish. And it's like, hold on.
It does. I think that's one thing we don't really give ourselves permission to celebrate our success as entrepreneurs until the Bambi legs go away, but they don't really ever.
Exactly. Because another set of Bambi legs are right around the corner when you level up again. And you're like, shoot, I should have enjoyed that view a little more. Yeah.
I know. And I think that's why I completely missed so much of my financial success and didn't realize how quickly I was meeting my goals because I was Bambi legs the whole time doing it.
Sure.
But yeah, it's so as far as business pivots and all of that, one thing that I've just been like beyond the moon grateful for, and you have really helped me see so much of the not only financial but just personal value and having a personal brand, especially one that people really connect with, that you're willing to be authentic with, which is why they're willing to connect with it. It gives me so much flexibility, just so much.
Let's talk about that. In what ways?
Yeah. So I had one type of business before this pandemic, and I sort of have a different type of business now. Gosh, the pandemic was just so hard on so many of us. Just for me as a single mom, I lost almost all of my support system and the things that I was doing to take care of myself, and suddenly had these 2 kids home all of the time. And I had to hire, one of the unemployed teachers from their school to come and nanny for us privately. And that just cost a lot more money just for me to be able to keep working. And so during that time, I had actually expected much of this year to be traveling, to be speaking, to be really growing my brand that way, doing events, retreats, all of that type of thing. I love coaching women one-to-one. I truly believe I will do it forever. But this past year, I really saw the limits of that in terms of how much time I can trade for money. And I hit a plateau in terms of the money that I can make. And so I also, it's expensive to work with me one-to-one. And so one thing that's been important to me has been wanting to create things that can make the work that I do more accessible to more women. And so one thing that this pandemic allowed me to do, which I was so thankful for the nature of my business because I do my coaching online. But then I also had this brand that while I was going to go in one direction with speaking and engagements and retreats and things like that, I was able to use it to monetize a totally different revenue stream instead when the pandemic happened. And so I've actually created 3 courses since the pandemic started. And
3 courses.
Yeah. Well, one of them is like a more major course, and then 2 of them are kind of like mini courses, just so that the work is accessible at, almost all levels. But
and if people want to find out more, because they will, your where should they go about these courses?
Well, you can always find everything you need at my Instagram. If you're just on Instagram anyway, there's a link in my bio for everything. So it's at jules.webber. And then my website is juleswebber.com. And so you can shop there, find everything there. The courses and all of
in the show notes too for everyone, okay, but just for the inquiring minds, because I think I'm always trying to level up in the relationship area.
No, totally.
During these times, honestly.
And especially being like such driven modern women, it's like we're so goal oriented. We work a ton. We work so hard because we do care about what we're called to and what we're passionate about. But then also in the more modern sense, we're also wearing like a dozen different hats every day as moms, as, wives and partners and friends and business leaders. And, there's just so much going on. And so the courses are really meant to help women like that reconnect with the inspired part of themselves that just knows how to sort of lean back into ease and away from that drive a little bit, just so that you can kind of rest in love again. And trust yourself in the midst of all of it. Because I think it can be hard on some of our relationships. And so those are focused on like refilling up that well in the ways that only you can. So we're not like, our relationships aren't getting so drained as we're going about all of this, all these wonderful wonderful things that we're doing.
I just want to acknowledge briefly. So I talk a lot about that intersection of where passion, purpose, and skill collide, right? Bliss resides there. And there isn't a better example of someone doing that. I mean, you really have nailed it. And it's something you had to create, right? This was not a job description you could go find. You created this intersection. So you created it during the same year you moved, you had a baby, you got divorced, and then you started a business same year. And right around that corner was this thing called COVID. So it's like, yeah, this is just a perfect storm of awesomeness that you've been able to do. So that's just incredible for people who are listening. Like, if you remember, we started the top of this show and Jules was sitting on her couch, right? And wondering, what am I going to do? I need to figure this out. You just had finalized your divorce and you had never been the financial provider before. And so I just want to bring that full circle real quick because it is.
Yeah. Cause 8 months after that, why not now moment, COVID happened. Yeah. Which,
yeah,
dear God, that was.
So I didn't mean to take us off track, but here you are scaling. You're finding ways to productize your intellectual property, which is something I talk and teach a lot about. And it's just such a natural path for entrepreneurs, especially with personal brands who start in that one-on-one coaching, and then they move into the next layer and the next layer. And now you're finding ways to scale your value in terms of offer your value at times and places that you are not present there physically live. And I know we were talking the other day and before, it can feel jolty, right? Like there's these bouts of burnout that can happen at the peaks of each one. And then we realize, oh, okay, it's time to grow again. It's time to shift this up. And so do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what that's felt like for you? And just if you knew then what you know now, what to look out for,
I've heard burnout described as, the moment when you hate the thing that you love.
Oh, that's so good.
You know what that's like.
Never heard that before, but I know exactly.
We all know. So that's where I got this year. I was like, I can't coach another person, even though I know I love this. And so I really had to make some changes. And I don't think that was a result of the coaching itself being too much, but I got to burnout, after my kids had home 100% of the time for almost 4 months. And there was just a lot grating on my nervous system all hours of the day. So it really had more to do with my body and not feeling permission to really slow down for myself and getting really caught up in the hustle. I loved coaching, but couldn't give the best of myself to it. And I think when we hit those moments too, like whether it's burnout or something doesn't go the way that we thought it would, I didn't realize this until this was a piece of wisdom that I was just so thankful to have received really early on in the journey. I mean, so much of it was from Renegade Brand Bootcamp, but then one an entrepreneur you've interviewed before, Kenny Tomlin, said to me was, he just kind of gave me a picture of in a conversation, sometimes I run my business and it feels the way you feel when you've been married for a long time. It's like some days you wake up so grateful that you wake up every morning next to this person, and other days you wake up and you just need all the space that you can get and you don't want to see that person. And that your relationship can fall everywhere in between those two spaces. And I had actually, and this is so funny because that reframe has been so helpful for me ever since, especially as someone that sees the world and almost everything that I do through a lens of relationship. Those difficult feelings that we have, I think if you're not prepared for them, especially if you've never been on the entrepreneurial path, can feel like it means that you're doing something wrong because those feelings are there. Like, oh, I feel discouraged right now. That must mean I did something wrong, or I shouldn't have gone all in on this. Or engagement on social media isn't where I want to be. That must be I'm not doing it right, or must mean I'm not doing it right. We have these like invisible metrics for ourselves that we don't realize are there, where it's like we're only giving ourselves permission to feel feelings of success all the time. And if we don't, it means we're doing a shitty job. And carrying that judgment toward yourself is easily the heaviest and most difficult part and most damaging part of entrepreneurship if you don't realize that that is happening. Because I think it had the most to do for me with my self-sabotage, with keeping that in check, with being afraid of expanding and of abundance. If I couldn't give full permission to the wide range of emotions that I would feel on this, I wouldn't be able to give myself permission to succeed. Like I have to be able to feel the highs and the lows and everything in between and know that this is still the path for me. Just like you feel that commitment to your person, that you're in intimate partnership or your best friend or your kid. Like my business is my third child. Like I will never give up on my business ever. Like it just will never be an option. Just like I'll never give up on my kids. And I feel it all, just like I do with being a mom, It's not always rosy. But I would say going back to that first moment where I made the decision that I was going to take care of myself from the beginning, that's kind of what I return to when everything feels shitty. I just reevaluate, okay, am I really being present to myself? Like I just return to my body in those moments where it feels like, oh, the answer to all this stress is just making more money and just getting more things and fixing the problems. It's really just, no, just turn it all off and get a good night of sleep.
That's the answer.
Feels so different.
That's the magic bullet right there. It always is, right? Oh my gosh, if there is one it's so funny because I was just going to ask you, just from a productivity standpoint, and I think oftentimes self-care and productivity are best friends, but you are working from home, you have your kids at home. What are some of the tangible things you do in your day to get the most out of the day and make the most impact you can?
It's so interesting. My girls are a little bit older now, and so they're with their dad more for just a little bit more during the week. And I remember at the beginning feeling like I need to fill every spare moment that I don't have them with work because that's just the nature of life right now. And so then they were, going to be with him a little bit more. And I would be like, I don't want to work. I don't want to fill every spare second with work anymore. Cause I got to burnout. Like I hated the thing that I loved. And if there's one thing I've learned in relationships, particularly like long-term partnerships, and I think a lot of married people, especially with kids or couples that live together, have experienced this during the pandemic because they're holed up together. It's that you healthy space for the relationship to breathe, to retain your sense of individual identity, for there to be mystery, eroticism, getting to know each other, catching up. Like you can't just be glued to each other 24/7. And you'll just resent each other. It's like, because there's no room to take care of you when you're glued to each other. And so even as I was helping couples and women just to create more organic space for themselves in their lives, I was realizing, again, like when you reframe your business through this lens of relationship, I was just realizing I was glued to my business all of the time. And so
good point. Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah. Just the constant thoughts of like, I have to make the most of every minute. I have to always be productive. If I don't have my kids, I need to use that to work. And if something doesn't go the way that I wanted, then it must be because I didn't use that Sunday to really get stuff done. That got so exhausting so fast. And so I now have like very specific work hours, and I stop work. I stop when the clock is like, when it doesn't matter what didn't get done, I'm done for the day. And having that boundary, even like, because I think I said something, what was it? I can't remember it, but it was like the other day I had unintentionally scheduled into my calendar like an extraordinarily long work day. It was like I had an evening event, I had a podcast interview, I had some content video I needed to create, something. And I was exhausted the entire day and didn't realize that it was just because I had this expectation of myself that I was literally going to wake up at like 5 a.m. and keep working until 9 p.m. and use every second of that time to be productive and to produce. And it was just so exhausting. Like I couldn't, that's a ridiculous work day. Like I can't enjoy myself and my work and stay inspired when I'm working like that.
And it's so inefficient, actually, right? If you get the rest we need and focus in shorter sprints, we can actually get more done per minute if you actually calculate it out. It's so true, but we tend to think the volume of time equals the volume of work, and that doesn't.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I actually made a choice that sounded really unreasonable, but like I only work 4 days a week.
Why? I mean, why not?
That's it. Yeah. Like whatever gets done in 4 days. I know. And that allows me to like be a stay-at-home mom with my kids 1 day a week. And then their dad does the same thing. So he gets 1 day at home with them every week. And then he works the other 4 days. And I don't work on weekends unless, for some reason, it's like a project I feel inspired to do or I need to use that time. But keeping it contained helps me stay in love with it. It really does.
Ooh, I love that. And I know you've implemented more systems and procedures, and that's something we've focused a lot on with your fellow renegades. And just, I'm a strong believer in that because you can work smarter, not harder in a lot of cases. And these aren't huge overhauls necessarily. They're putting things in place and putting the right workflow and delegating where you can. And so I just really appreciate your desire to be more efficient and outsource what you can as well. Because you get to that point where you can afford to stay in your genius even more. And, okay. So to kind of wrap up in this final question, here you are, you're sitting on the couch. This was pre any like success that you've recently witnessed and experienced. What would you say to Jules in that moment if you could go back and talk to her?
She obviously did not need my advice because she went for it and she did very well.
That's awesome.
I would go back though. The only thing I have to say to her now is thank you.
Your future self is about to thank you.
Yeah, because truthfully, like in that moment, she was thinking of me. Like everything that she did, like, I'm crying now. As scared as she was, like following that little thread of truth that she was still learning how to find, what she chose is how I'm okay right now. It's how like COVID happened and I was able to make it work, it's how I'm so fucking happy and confident. That moment that we wait for where it's like, okay, now I'm ready because now I know everything there is to like, it's not going to come. And you don't need to know all the things. And that's actually not even what entrepreneurship is. It's just a bumbling journey of learning and giving yourself permission to learn the lessons all along the way. Like once you can just accept that you are building this plane as you are flying it, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
You're just willing to let it be that instead of this like need that we're all conditioned with from a young age, which is like go to school, get your 5 degrees, do your apprenticeships or whatever, get prepared, spend your whole life preparing to finally be able to do something. Actually, no, just go back to that time that you were a kid and you knew what play was and you down and learned how to walk. Like you've already learned everything you needed when you were like not even 5 years old.
It's like I'm over here in tears because you have allowed me to live in that intersection. Like I am, this even bearing witness to your journey and being a guide along the way wherever I could has been such an honor because I've gotten to see and witness what you've seen and what you've experienced. I feel like I've gotten to feel it and it's a gift. It's a really, really big gift as someone who reached that burnout at one point, who despised what she was addicted to, right? Like talk about when you hate the thing you love. You've shifted that for me and given me that opportunity by being in my orbit. So I'm grateful for you and thank you for sharing. Thank you for being open.
Can I just tell you too, like since you're here, I think I cannot overstate how one of the most powerful parts of all of this has been you for me. Like I have never, and I think so many entrepreneurs and business leaders and people can relate to operating in a world where other people in your same field or other people who are looking for their own success struggle to be happy for you having your success. And with so many women have said this to me about you. Like, this is the talk that happens about you when you're not around. We all just talk about how unconditionally for us you are. Like, that's what you put in the world. And that's literally the one thing that women need to be able to keep expanding, to do the things that we want, to believe in ourselves. Like, you've done that. Like, there's nothing more healing about any of this for me than experiencing other women be truly supportive of me and excited for me. And you were one of those people that I texted at every milestone, like this, because you were going to be so unconditionally happy. Mm-hmm. And I love, like, oh my God, like, I literally can tell you, look at you right now and tell you, like, I wouldn't have done anything that I did this past year without you.
Well, we need each other, right?
Yeah.
And that's, it lights me up to hear that. And I feel almost like I'm blushing in a way, but also very, I'm like receiving this, because if you're listening right now, you do need those people around you, right? And it's equal value exchange. You've done the same thing for me. So step one is finding those people half the time who are going to protect your idea and support it and not shoot it down before it even sprouts, help you water it and cheer you on and figure out all the things, because then you're not alone. And many hands make light work. So, oh my gosh. It's a love fest now, folks. We're full on. If you're still with us, thank you for sticking around. No, but it is true. It actually is everything. So you surround yourself. If you can be unapologetically true to yourself, your tribe will find you. Your renegades will find you. And I'm grateful for you, Jules.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?